All right, here we are, another episode of Flipping Houses for Rookies. Good morning, Peter.
Morning, Bill. Hello, everybody.
Here we are again. We're on episode number 403. Whew.
Whoa, whoa.
Yeah, today's title is Expert Secrets Every Creative Real Estate Rookie Should Know. Again, expert secrets every creative real estate rookie should know. Here is the description. Tired of losing out to cash offers with today's sellers? Wondering what to do? Even possibly thinking of giving up? This episode is your secret weapon. We need to ditch the old playbook and dive into today's new way of talking to sellers, making offers, and closing deals. Why let all those cash sellers who discard today's reality own and control your destiny? There is such a thing as motivated seller magic. And today we are going to discuss when the seller already has it or if you need to create it or not. Plus, we will reveal our deal making dojo. And it is super easy to do if you listen up today. So, if you are ready to ditch the traditional mold in your offers and rewrite a new destiny that before you only dreamed of, learn to unlock hidden gems that are not normally discussed in public. Let us show you how to make offers so irresistible that the sellers will feel stupid saying no to them. And soon you too will start picking up property left and right. Today, we are going to revolutionize your financial future. Question is, are you ready?
And the answer to that is I was born ready.
All
That's
right, so
supposed to be the answer.
let's do a little bit of housekeeping first. So, first of all, we thank you for being here and listening to us. And
Hmm.
for you continuous listeners, I thank you for your support. Peter thanks you for our support. And we record this podcast every Thursday morning, 9:30ish a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And when we record it or pre-record it, we live stream on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. So if you want to be part of the podcast and be part of the topic we're talking about in the podcast, you can go to any one of those platforms and just type in Flipping Houses for Rookies, and you will find us. If you have other questions outside of the realm of today's topic, you can do one of two things. We have a little mastermind group that's 100 and something people on WhatsApp Messenger, which is totally free. All you have to do is go to WhatsApp Messenger and type in Let's Talk Real Estate, and you'll find us. Also, if you if you can't figure out how to do that and you need help or you need any other help, support help, you can go to flippinghouses4rookies.com. Top right hand side is a support link, and you can send us a message and we'll answer your questions. Okay. Make sure you subscribe to us wherever you're listening to us or watching us, and make sure you like us. If you want to dislike us, that's fine too, but let us know why. Okay. So Peter and I spend a few hours a week, 3 or 4 hours a week minimally, putting this podcast together of our I consider very valuable time. So if we're doing something wrong, we'd like you to tell us. If we're doing something right, we'd like you to tell us.
Hmm.
This is our giving back to the community. All right, enough of that, Pete. Let's start in the middle today.
Okay.
And let's not start at the end or the beginning. Sometimes I'm like, I'm going to start right in the middle. Just jump right in and start right in the middle.
Go ahead.
Motivated seller magic, or
Mm.
MSN.
I was thinking of that. We have some abbreviations there. MSM.
No, you've never heard this before until today because it's brand new here on Bill's planet. So, uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Sit down, everybody.
But You will soon see why this, meaning the motivated seller magic, MSM, is important in every, every, every single real estate transaction. Matter of fact, it's in every other business as well. I just don't do those businesses and don't talk about them. But
Mm.
if there's a business that is making money by selling something, even if it's just getting donations for a church,
Mm-hmm.
if there's incoming money, which is every business, everything on planet Earth, even you personally, I mean, you have to have money coming in. Everybody has to have money to be able to survive today, right?
Yep.
Then this philosophy will work, or this motivated seller magic is in the middle of it.
Mm.
So let's break it down quickly before we get into our deal structuring dissection today, because I am going to do that towards the end of the podcast, is do
Mm.
numbers of real deals
Okay.
and why it matters and why we should use these numbers and how we should talk to people. Matter of fact, today I did a little bit different because as we get towards the end of the podcast, I'm actually going to do a bit of a script. I'm not going to do role playing, but just kind of like some ad hoc on how I would do the deal or how I
Mm-hmm.
would talk to the seller on the deal. So it would be kind of like what I would say,
I'd like to hear
which
that
is
myself.
which is always a little bit different than the script because when I write the scripts, they're more formal, but when I say them, they're not as formal. So it's a little bit
Mm-hmm.
different.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's break it down a little bit so everybody's on the same page. Motivated seller. Now, this has, believe it or not, Peter, you know this, has taken almost a decade to define this word or these words.
Mm-hmm.
I've changed it multiple times. I keep having realizations about it and I keep making it simpler and simpler. I will tell you this. If you've ever been in a position to be part of a group, especially a leader of a group, and you have followers, and you're trying to get them to understand things that just come innately to you, in other words, natural to you,
Mm-hmm.
um, trying to make things simple is the hardest thing in the world. And
No,
that
that's true.
sounds like cliche,
No,
right?
no,
But
that's true. I'm a teacher. I've spent, besides real estate, I have music background and I teach, and you spend years or decades learning something, and it's just becomes second nature. And someone asks you a question, you go like, how do you explain that, right?
right, yeah,
And it takes some time to get it simple enough, and then people still won't get it until they work with it, look at it, try it, and kind of travel the road a little themselves, and they go one day go, oh, that's what he said.
well, the interesting thing is that your feelings, how you feel and how you portray yourself, like I don't mean like being an actor or an actress and pretending like you feel a way that you don't, just
Mm-hmm.
to make somebody else happy, right? That's propitiation, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're paying others to be your friends either by being nice to them or anyway. So the point is this: your feelings and your humanness is what does transactions. But when you're teaching, you can't teach your feelings.
Oh,
So you have to teach somebody how to think so that once they understand it or duplicate the full understanding, they then can create their own feelings.
mm.
And it's not that easy to do.
No, it's interesting.
So,
Even thinking about it that way.
all right, so motivated seller means, or motivated means, a seller is flexible to ideas, offers, and overall solutions that you propose. In other words, they say yes more than they say no to your ideas.
Mm.
Now, it sounds so simple, But honestly, I've written that. I feel like hundreds of times. It's not been that much, but I've written that a lot
Mm.
of times. So
Mhm.
motivation or a motivated seller is a seller. The seller is flexible to ideas, offers, and overall solutions that you're proposing. In other words, they say yes more than they say no.
Mhm.
And it's not desperate. Desperate is different. Desperate's like I'll do anything,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, desperate is feeling hopeless, like a hopeless sense, right? Like it's impossible to do,
Yeah.
right?
There's no way out. There's no solution.
It's like despair.
So
Despair is no hope.
game is over.
Everything else has failed. There's no other solution because everything you've done has failed,
Mm.
right? You have
Mhm.
little hope for success. That's much different. That's desperate. Much different than motivated.
Right. The motivated would have some element that normal solutions might not apply. Like, I'll just go do that like everybody else. I'll just go down to the supermarket and buy some food. Wait a minute, the supermarket's closed. I don't have a car. I don't have any money. So there should be some element like the normal solutions are not pertinent to their situation, so they need something else.
Believe it or not, I think motivated is synonymous to I just lost my train of thought. Scarcity.
Hmm.
See, definition of scarcity to me is that a person hasn't looked for enough solutions. They stopped looking.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So scarcity means like, oh, I don't have enough money for groceries this week.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Means doesn't mean that they don't have enough money. It just means that they could have went down to the blood bank and sold their blood for $50 and got grocery money. Or they could have walked the next door neighbor's dog for $10, or
Mm.
there's just they stopped looking. They didn't look far enough to get their solution.
Yeah. So the
And
first
so,
normal solutions don't work and they stop.
yeah. So
Right.
I think motivated and scarcity are two different. I mean, are the same word almost. They're two different
Mm.
ideas, but the same word. And what I'm telling you here is that the seller is flexible to your ideas, to your offers, and overall solutions you're proposing because you're breaking them out of this scarcity. You're like telling them, did you try this or did you try that? Or you're asking them, what about this or what about that? Did you think about this? Did you think about that?
Yeah.
Right. And you're kind
Yeah.
of breaking them out of that bubble
Mm.
of like, I didn't, my ideas didn't work, but just because they were, they were just wrapped in it emotionally and couldn't see outside of these ideas. Anyways,
Yep.
way too much time on that. The amazing thing about this, most think they need skill to do deals or have all the answers or even become clever speaking with the right scripts and talk like somebody like me. They think that people think that I'm smart and I'm skilled and I make all these deals because, and that's not it at all.
Mm.
It's not it at all. I've been in a few positions. I've only had a couple jobs in my life. One of them, um, I sold consulting to automotive repair shops, and there was a guy that was a superstar there, and he would close, between 40 and 60%, and nobody could consistently do what he did
Mm-hmm.
until Bill Hawthorne came along. I never forget the day I sat in a restaurant with him. And he told me he was passing the gauntlet. So what does that mean? He says, well, obviously you know what you're doing and you beat me. He says, nobody's been able to do that in 20 years.
Mm.
Here was the secret. Honestly, here was the secret. He
Mm-hmm.
didn't know this. I studied him every weekend because I
Ah.
was gone 40 to 45 weekends a year working, right? We fly all over the country, Canada. And here was the secret. And it's the secret of almost every killer salesperson. And I'm not saying we're salespeople, but just understand this because it proves a point in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
They pre-qualify. They don't waste their talents because they have talent, or AKA their presentation, on deaf ears. Excuse me. They figure out, oh my goodness, they figure out quickly or at some point the 2 or 3 or 4 questions on whether or not there's a little spark there that they can pour gasoline on and make a fire. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So if you pre-qualify someone and turns out they're not a prospect, you don't even do the interview, because if you added them in, that would ruin your percentages. So you just don't do it. It's like, sorry, never mind.
Which is where the whole prospect suspect came from.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Ron LeGrand talks about that, but he has a different perspective on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a suspect is someone that says no more than they say yes to your ideas.
Yeah.
Right. So many people, many people, especially rookies that follow us, think that my skill is what closes my deals. It's how I talk, it's my knowledge, it's like presenting the right offer, understanding the deal strategies, dissecting the emotions, the situations. I mean, you guys think that this is going through my head when I'm talking to somebody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we would think that.
Because a lot of people say to me when I, well, I'll record something and then we'll do a Zoom webinar or something. They'll be like, "What were you thinking?" And you'd be surprised that I wasn't thinking nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When in truth, the most natural law in creative real estate is motivated sellers say yes more than they say no. Right? Which means if you have empathy, which is caring about the seller, and just be human, these innate skills, in other words, everybody has them. The seller will do deals with you.
Mm.
Even if it's your first day on the job and know nothing. I've had coaching students, tell their clients, "This is my first deal. Can you help me get it done?" If they have the right seller, they'll be like, "Absolutely." Because see, here is a magical statement that not enough pay attention to it, including us.
Hmm.
I picture it like this. Like you go into a bar, right?
Yeah.
And there's those high tables that are like 4 feet high and you stand around them.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, little tables, you put your drink on. You're standing there so that you don't have a drink in one hand, a cigarette in the other, because you can't smoke anymore. So,
Right.
Yeah, then you don't know what to do with your hands.
Yeah. Good old Peter. So to me, that when I say go into the closing table, that's the type. I don't know where I got that from, but that table is what I'm thinking. So picture 4 or 5 people standing around that table. And in the center of the table is a box. And inside of that box has exactly what each one of these 4 or 5 people want.
Mm.
So as they show up to the table, they sign some documents, and the person reaches in the box and pulls out exactly what that person wants and gives it to them.
Mm-hmm.
So they leave the closing table with what exactly they wanted. It couldn't have been more perfect. Right? So how does that happen? So that happens because of your empathy and your human innate ability and just communicating to somebody and not disappearing or not pulling any punches or surprises on anyone, just kind of like going along, being normal. Set that situation up. You should not have to force a closing. If you do your job, everybody will show up at that table all by themselves. You don't have to call them and remind them, hey, tomorrow we're closing at 10 o'clock. They already know because they're excited. They're going there to get what they want.
Mm-hmm.
And they would not, and think about it, Peter, you know this because you've been there. People, they take days off from work. They don't see grandkids. They don't babysit. They don't go to the grocery store. They're supposed to go on vacation. They change their vacation. I mean, they really want what this closing table is going to give them.
That's right.
When you set up that scenario in the back of your mind, you're constantly doing that, then things are different. So the first big lesson, almost 99% of all rookies miss out on, is learning about the seller, right? And how to find engaged sellers. It's not about studying creative real estate. Creative real estate is not made to study it or learn it. It's made to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And what that means is it unfolds as it goes along. Every question, people think that they ask sellers questions, right? So they know what's going on. That is partially true. But the real gold in every deal is the responses to the questions. See, the questions aren't being asked so much as to find out for like data. The questions are really there to invoke or provoke or create an emotional response. To break the social veneer of the seller's protection and let them tell you exactly what's going on so you can so they can trust they can trust you that you'll help them because you're not going to take advantage of them. Right? So I hope I didn't go too deep there, but it's an innate thing. I mean, it's no different than a relationship with another person. A mother, a father, a child, a spouse, a boyfriend, a girlfriend. I mean, these are things that you do in a natural course of life. So, not enough people study the sellers. They think that creative real estate, somebody like me, is all these special skills. Like deal structuring and understanding the paperwork and the inspection on the house and knowing how much it's worth and all the real estate things.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense what you're saying. I got the idea that in creative real estate we have a lot of things we could do, a lot of ways we could structure a deal, a lot of types of deals. Is it this way? How are we doing the payments? Who's got the deed? There's a lot of things there. Mm-hmm. But unless you find out which one the person would be open to, what are you doing? Throwing a menu at them? It's like the waitress comes over and our special today.
What do you want?
Yeah, just ask me what I want. My wife is a very picky eater. She doesn't like much. She looks at the menu. She says, don't look at the menu. Do you want a hamburger? Do you want a steak? Ask for the potatoes. Do you want a salad or not? Just tell them what you want, because you know what you want already. But you just can't have all that data and throw it at a person without finding which one they may be open to. And I'm having trouble with that now. I talk to people and I don't think I'm getting through to them. I'm thinking, I'd like to go sit in somebody's house and just sit in front of them so I can really get through to them, because it's on the phone. It's a little hard with some people that are just, not open. A lot of people are not used to opening up, especially to somebody on the phone. So you're pretty good at that. And I'm normally pretty good at that. I don't think I'm hitting it as good as I need to. So that was good. I'm going to keep that in mind when I'm talking to somebody.
So Chris says, do you get a lot of buyers who want to do an inspection before buying? So first of all, Chris, I didn't realize you listened to my podcast. I thought last week I saw you here, but thanks for being here, dude. He's in one of the other coaching groups that I have. So that's pretty cool that you're here. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I've never had anybody that wanted to do an inspection, a buyer that wants to do an inspection on a property. If I did, I would just tell them, go ahead, just go do an inspection. And whatever you find is fine. I mean, don't try to hide anything, because here's the thing. Chris, suppose they did an inspection, right? If you're doing things the way we talk about, right? You shouldn't really be committed to a deal until you've done a few deals and know what you're doing. You should not be committed to a deal until you put your buyer and seller in place.
Mm.
So if you do it that way, which we do through an option, that's another podcast, but you're going to go out and find your buyer before you get your seller, right? Before you close with your seller. So
Mm-hmm.
if there's a problem and they do an inspection, then you go back to the seller and say, hey, I got this deal, and you put it back on the seller because they still own the property.
Actually, that's a really good way to get the inspection done without you having to pay for it on our end.
Yeah, exactly.
If they want to do it. And if there is something wrong, wouldn't you want to know that before you put the buyer in there? And then 2 years, 3 years later, they go to buy it, and then they get in the mortgage, there is an inspection, and it all blows up then. So
right.
I would welcome it. Like, sure, find out now. You can always walk away if it's find the foundation's got a crack in, it's $40,000. Like, never mind, goodbye. You got the option. You don't have to buy it. Leave. Get out of trouble.
Cool. All right, next. Magic. So we talked about motivated seller. Right? Now magic.
Okay, do the magic part, Bill. Bill, I need some magic. Do the magic part.
You're going to be disappointed. This means to me being very effective in producing results, especially desired results.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And around here, meaning creative real estate, we do this by controlling how we influence the seller. Now, we could and should do a whole podcast just on that alone, but let me explain. The basic natural law of this is if the seller feels they have found you by accident,
Mm-hmm.
or they feel they have come to a conclusion by mistake or unexpectedly while talking to you, they feel empowered and not influenced by you. Very powerful.
I'll say it again.
Yeah. So the magic or basic law on this is if the seller feels they have found you by accident, or they feel they've come to some conclusion by mistake or unexpectedly while talking to you, they feel empowered and not influenced by you.
Is that like when you talk to somebody and you think you know what they should do and you don't tell them because they don't want you to tell them, but as you talk to them, they think they came up with the idea that you're trying to get them to get. They think it's their idea, and you just you shut up and don't say anything. So, oh, that's pretty smart of you, because they want to have their own ideas.
That's right. However, if you talk to enough sellers, you will soon see and hear patterns. All sellers practically say the same things. I want all cash. I want my name off of it. I just want to walk away. No, I don't want to do terms. Right? Almost every seller says that. Just like every buyer has $5,000 down or $3,000 down and wants to pay $1,200 a month. Every buyer starts that way. Every buyer. And I've got buyers that are paying $2,500, $2,800 a month, and they started off at $1,200.
Wait, they haven't gone up to 15 lately with inflation?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, we'll find out in the next deal.
So here is the killer, most obvious secret. If you influence or guide the seller with questions, it will get them to where you want them to be.
Mhm.
Because when you ask them a question, they have to think about it. And then they sooner or later come around to, oh, I didn't think
Yeah.
of that before.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. As a teacher, I do more asking questions. I teach music, did my other job. So a student will ask me a question. I'll say, well, what about this? What about that? What about this? And they go, oh, I get it now. And I didn't tell them anything. I actually got them to do the logical thing they should be doing. Like somebody who's trying to sell a house, they should be asking themselves questions like, gee, how much can I get? Gee, how much will it cost me to sell it? Gee, how long will it take? Gee, how much aggravation will it be? Gee, is there another way to do this? They don't ask themselves those questions.
Most importantly, the most important question that you missed
Yeah.
is, where's the buyer going to get the money from if I ask this amount?
Yeah. But
So if the house is worth 400 and they're asking 500, they should be asking, how's the buyer going to get $500,000? Because the bank's
Yeah.
only going to approve it for 400, which is the reason why I put in my description, right?
Mm-hmm.
And today we're going, making offers and closing deals. Why let these all cash sellers who discard today's reality? Because they're asking $500,000 for a $400,000 house. That's discarding today's reality.
Yep.
They think that they're still in the bubble from 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
Now here's the magic no one talks about. If you watch a movie 2 or 3 times or more, often you'll know what's coming up next.
I hope so.
So you prepare for the excitement. You know the scenes. Hey, Rocky, how are you today? Glad to have you. Rocky says, he's here. Welcome. Good morning. So if you're watching this movie and you know the scenes are coming up and somebody has not watched the movie, right? And they're sitting next to you and be like, hey, watch this.
Yeah.
Hey, this is a good scene. Check this one out. I really like this scene. I like what she says or he does. Watch the explosion. Watch the whatever.
Right? Sure.
You already know what's going to happen, right?
Mm-hmm. Hope so.
So if you've talked to enough sellers and you know that they're giving you the same old responses, it's like watching that movie. So if you have talked to enough sellers,
yeah,
it is the same thing as the movie. You know what's coming up next.
Yeah.
So you influence the conversation with the correct questions to guide them or guide the seller's attention on where you want them to think. Right? Mm-hmm. Now, this is easily for me a 3 podcast episode, which I'm not going to do, is attention.
Ooh.
You got your book, Peter, that I sent you? Is it there?
Oh, no, not in the room. No.
Okay. The room. What's the name of the book?
Thinking About Your Thinking.
By Dan Sullivan.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking About Your Thinking.
Mm-hmm.
The entire book. It's not a big book. It's what, probably 50 pages? It's a little book?
Yeah, 50, 60, yeah.
It's all about...
And short chapters. You can read a chapter easily.
It's all about, what am I thinking right now?
Yeah.
So if you have something going on in your life and you don't like it, you say to yourself, what am I thinking right now? T. Harv Eckert said 20 years ago, where your attention goes, energies flow, results show.
Mm-hmm.
Attention is the magic of today's world, of any world. What you put your attention on is what you get. Oh, I don't have enough money. Then you get more enough money. Oh, I'm never going to make it by Friday. And you don't make it by Friday. Oh, I never get enough vacation time. and then you never get any vacation time.
Well, if that's what you're thinking, that's what you're creating. You're not going to look for that other solution. You got scarcity, right? You don't look for the other solution.
Unfortunately, we're human beings in this particular case, and we have this subconscious mind that works below our awareness. So it takes these little attention units that we have, and it works on them behind the scenes without us knowing it. So it can prove itself as valuable. See, I'm protecting you. I'm giving you what you want. It's very insidious.
I will automatically help you.
Right.
And my message to people who are looking for ways out of things, like have everything automated, your bills automated. Don't. I watched this TV show about people who live to be 100. They don't automate anything. They don't sit there staring at the phone, wash clothes. They're actually washing the clothes with their hands and getting strong, body circulation, healthy. Yeah. So automating things and having subconscious things, not really good for you.
Some stuff it's good for, but not full automation. So
no, you want things to work for you so you can do more work, but the dumb stuff.
Let's go back. Let's go back to the beginning of the podcast where we're talking about motivation. Right. And I lost my train of thought. And closing deals not because of your skill, but because of the empathy, right? And kind of guiding them along. So what are you guiding? And we talked about having motivation and scarcity. They don't have enough solutions. This is your part to shine. Even if you don't know anything about real estate at all, just talk to them like they're your little brother or little sister, or they're your cousin or something like that. Like, oh my God, did you try this? Did you try that? Did you try this? And all you're going to do is open up the seller's mind to things they weren't thinking about. This is what I'm talking about when I say, so you influence the conversation with the correct questions to guide the seller's attention on where you want them to think. Right? And soon the seller will feel they have by accident found the rare solution that you happen to be able to provide easily. You're in the right place at the right time because they had this epiphany. It's like waving a magic wand over the seller's emotional desires. Now all you have to do is justify the deal with the math. So they kind of make their mind up emotionally. Oh, I think I should do this. And now they need to justify it. So you justify that with the math. So the emotions are all they're all marching in your parade now. Like because you and this is important because you need to talk about the benefits, not the features. I'm going to go over that in a couple of minutes. You keep talking about what if you could just walk away by the end of the week? And all you're doing is repeating what they say, which is why the most important formula that we have, other than money now, money monthly, money later, is the 4 steps of a deal. Find and communicate to a motivated seller. Tell them what you do, which is we take payments or do a discount. We're creative real estate people. Right? Ask them what's needed and wanted, and then give it to them. Step 4. So if you say, well, what's needed and wanted is I need to go to my job in Atlanta, Georgia within 15 days from now.
True story.
So every time they come off of well, I don't think I want to do that. So you're not ready. So you're willing to not be in Georgia in 15 days then, right? You remind them of what they're supposed to be doing. You direct their attention back to the problem that they're having on why they're selling the house. Or Well, if you do that, you're not going to be able to be in Georgia for 15 days. In 15 days.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Okay, so let's switch because we're a little bit late here. But let's switch. Let's talk about the math. I think I've made my point on that. I hope I gave you guys some good ideas.
Yeah, definitely.
At this point, if you're using the scripts, uh, which by the way, I put the scripts in today's podcast description. So if you go in the description, there's a link there so you can get scripts, and I have a calculator in there too. Uh, so at this point, the scripts, like I said, that are in the description, have gotten you through the emotional desire stuff. It's gotten you through the pre-qualifying. The first 2 or 3 questions are pre-qualifying to find out if you should deal with them or not.
Yeah.
And then we kind of hit upon some emotional stuff to some degree. And now they're telling you they don't want to do a terms deal. Because remember, they all say the same thing. This is where our rookies think, well, and I hear this all the time. We did this on Monday night's coaching call with one of our guys that has been with me for several years, Phil, right?
Mm-hmm.
I keep getting the same thing. People don't want to do this. They don't want to do that. They don't want to do this. Yeah. How long did it take me to dissect that, Peter?
Well, I might have not been on the call at that point.
Oh, I got it. 10 minutes.
Yeah. Ooh.
First question is, are you following the scripts? No. Because here's what happens with my coaching clients.
Yeah.
They dive in too quick. They want to talk about subject to and seller financing in their first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So here I am walking down the street and I bump into you. Mm-hmm. I say, hey, Peter. No, I say, hey, what's your name? You say, my name is Peter. Oh, I'm Bill. Oh, nice to meet you. Could you lend me $500? What are you going to think?
See you later. Yeah.
It's the same thing like, I talked to you for 5 minutes or 10 minutes on the call, and all of a sudden now you're talking to me about taking over your mortgage.
Yeah.
Or doing seller financing.
Yeah. I was thinking about that because I've been working with some people and I kind of get someplace and then I drop it and I feel I didn't get through them. They don't feel anything with me.
You went too fast.
Yeah. I miss things that they don't trust me. That's what I was thinking. Maybe I need to sit with someone so they can see me and, but the point is to get through so they feel that rapport.
So listen to what I'm telling you. You want to get through some of the emotional desires. You want to at least get an idea of what the emotional desires are, which is fairly easy to do. This is not some big secret, right? You just ask them, what are your emotional desires? And they'll tell you. Right? It's a direct question. So once you get that, so if you start doing the math, which we're going to talk about here in a minute, which will induce or strengthen or enhance the emotional desires. I'm going to show you the math here in a minute. Right? If they say no to the math, you go back to the emotional desires. You back up. We didn't do this right. Right?
Yeah.
So now they're telling you they don't want to do a terms deal. They don't want to do a terms deal. Now every seller, which is how I got on this little rant here, every coaching client tells me, well, I don't find there are no such thing as motivated sellers. I never find them. No, they're there. You just don't know how to dig for them.
Mm-hmm.
You're not pre-qualifying correctly. You're not using the script. Not only do they tell you they don't want to do terms deals, but they're often rude about it. Right?
Sometimes, yeah. Not too often, thank God, but they'll politely just get off the call before they just go be mean. But some people are just mean. Not many. Don't worry.
If the seller's asking price is $300,000, and they say, "I want all cash. I'm not willing to do a terms deal,"
Mm-hmm.
you would respond with, "So, you're saying you would not consider taking up to $411,000 for this property?"
Mm-hmm.
This is influencing, like I was talking about earlier, You stopped them dead in their tracks and had to change their thinking. You took them off of the automaticity, the automaticness of trying to get rid of you, because they've already done this with 10 or 15 or 20 or whatever, how many people before you, or they're automatically programmed this way because of their job or because of their life or because of their kids, because they have to say no all the time, and they've
That's right.
become masterful at it.
Well, it's easier. When you don't understand something, the easiest thing to do is just walk away. Say no
So
and move.
you're gonna knock them off of their circuit,
Mhm.
right? That's already running for them.
Well, they're thinking we're going to offer 200,000.
Right.
That's what they're thinking. Oh, investor, he wants to lowball me, and we say 400. Like, ooh,
So they tell you, "Oh, I don't want to do a terms deal," or "No, I only want a cash deal." And you're like, "So you're saying that you would not consider taking up to $411? I mean, 411,000 for this property?" Right?
hmm
And what are they going to say? I didn't say that. Then you continue on quickly before they start talking. You don't wait for an answer, right?
hmm
Would you like me to explain how I can do that? Not enough students are doing this
Why don't you wait for an answer?
because they're going to tell you it's a scam, or they're going to give you some negativism, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's
So I
unbelievable.
mean, so you're not going to. I mean, it's not you're going to. I mean, if they answer, you obviously going to acknowledge them, but
Yeah,
so you're going to say, so they're like, right after they say, I want all cash, or I just want terms, or I don't want any terms, I just want to sell it and walk away,
yeah,
right? You
yeah.
would say, so you wouldn't consider taking up to $411,000 for this house?
Mm,
And then immediately after that is, would you like me to explain how I can do that?
yeah. See, another
You,
question though.
you pause, right? And if it's a normal person, not a suppressive person that is just mean, right?
Mhm.
They'll let you feel they will feel kind of stupid saying no because they got nothing to lose. All they have to do is give you a little bit of their time, right? So you explain with the script, which by the way, we in the description today, there's a script and a calculator so you can get all these numbers. This is not something you have to go reinvent. I've already done it all for you, right? You can explain by the script the first thing you can do, the first thing I can do for you, Mr. Seller, is get the buyer to pay all your closing costs. Then I explain, you may not realize this, but on a $300,000 house, your closing costs are going to be 30 grand without a realtor if you sell on FISBO, and about 45,000 if you sell with a realtor. So right off the bat, I'm going to reduce that number for you. And the script shows you how to do this. There's step by step. It goes right through each number and it explains, right? And if the seller would be willing to wait 3 years by being the bank, not a landlord, no landlord responsibilities, as the buyer pays monthly lease fees, see, the buyer is buying the house with an option and just living in it until they get qualified for a mortgage. So they have to pay for the use of the house, which is the lease,
Mhm.
right? So a lot of people think this is rent to own. It's not rent to own. This is you're buying the house first, you're committing to the house first,
Mm.
and just living in the house until you get qualified for a mortgage. Okay,
Yeah, it's a delayed purchase.
right? It's a
Just like
delayed purchase.
just like we have a delayed cash out, we have a delayed purchase on the other end.
So, Mr. Seller, you're going to be taking these lease payments and using those to pay your mortgage every month,
hmm
which means it's not your money paying the mortgage, it's your buyer's money paying the mortgage. So what happens is you get a free benefit of your buyer paying down your mortgage. every month. They're reducing your mortgage, adding more profit for you when they go to close.
Yep.
So the longer they can go, the more profit you make, right? And
Mhm.
with your house, that's about $13,584 over 36 months. So that means your buyer is going to reduce your mortgage by $13,584. And that's being ultra conservative. I do this. I mean, talking to you now, talking to the podcast guys now, when I do this math in the calculator, I do it from a 12-month perspective. So in other words, a 30-year mortgage, the least amount of money that you're going to make for a pay down is the first 5 years. I have to sneeze. Hang on one second.
Yeah, there's more interest being paid on the mortgage than principal at the very beginning, and increases over time. So it's very
there's $13,584 is the least amount they're going to be getting for principal reduction. If they're 10 years of their mortgage, it's probably double or triple that number. But you don't care. You don't have to be exact. You're not their CPA right now. You're just saying you're going to make at least $13,000, $14,000 from taking the payments from your buyer, paying down your mortgage. And then because you're not living in the house, the government will allow you to depreciate the house over 27 and a half years. Right? And it will allow you to write off all your improvements if you made any. So that means your accountant at the end of the year is going to be able to give you an $11,000 over the course of 3 years, is going to give you $11,466 worth of tax credits that you can use for your ordinary income. That's pretty good.
That's pretty nice. Well, gee, I'm not making money. Are you kidding me? When you're sitting with the accountant and you don't have to write $11,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 in 1 year, that's very, very nice.
Or if you paid it to the government because you're on a W-2, you get it back as a refund.
One way or the other, you get to keep it. That's money in your pocket.
Then you go on and tell them, okay, which by the way, you could do this depreciation for 27 and a half years, so it's 3.64% a year.
Yep.
Times your regular tax rate. So if your tax rate is 20%, then it's 3.64% per year times your 21% tax rate. Okay.
Yep.
But the calculator does all this for you, right? Now, because over the last 100 years, history has shown us that real estate appreciates on an average about 3% a year. Even with the ups and downs in the market. Like right now, it's more than 3%. Right?
Yeah.
But that's okay because when you get a dip, it'll be less. So that means, Mr. Seller, you don't have to worry about getting gypped because what's the house worth in 3 years from now? Because we're going to add 3% into the buyer's contract, which means at the end of 3 years, the house is going to be worth $27,000 and they're going to have to pay that more money. So it's going to increase. The longer the buyer waits, the more the appreciation kicks in, the more they have to pay to go get a mortgage to be able to cash you out.
Yep.
So we're going to add $27,000 to that price. So in 3 years, you're going to get more money.
Yeah, that handles any objection that, oh, what if the house is worth more? It's built into the contract.
Right. This is a lot of money, Mr. Seller. In fact, if you add it all up, you're looking at about $111,257 total, which means you're really selling the house for $411,000 just for cooling your jets today and not taking all cash. Now, here's an even more amazing thing, Mr. Seller, that you should know. If you waited 5 years, you're going to make $155,428, or actually sell the house at $455,000. And in 10 years, it's a whopping $265,856 profit, which means you're selling for almost double at $265,856. No landlord obligations. You just get your checks in the mailbox. It's truly passive income. I'm going to set it all up for you. Right? And oh yeah, by the way, if you need money, you got to go buy another house. You could just go get a loan. You could get you could either get uh, a home equity line credit, or you could recast the loan, or go get a new loan, refinance, and get
Hmm.
your money out of it and let your buyer pay that loan for you. So you can go get your equity if you want. Because here's my question, Mr. Seller. You need $20,000 to go buy a new house. Is it worth giving up $111,000 in profit so that you can go get that 20 grand? There's got to be another place for you to get 20 grand and not have to give up $90,000 to get it. I'll help you with that if you want. But it doesn't make sense to me. Does it make sense to you?
Mm.
So as you can see, we piqued the seller's interest. Motivated seller magic. They're paying attention now, right? When we put ourselves in their shoes and talked about all the benefits and very little bit about the features. In other words, we're not giving them a real estate seminar and telling them about subject to owner financing. We're not even talking about that. We're not talking about any of that stuff. We're not even talking about how we're structuring the deal. Which, by the way, this deal is a slot deal, a sandwich lease option transfer.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're going to get a lease option from the seller, and you're going to sublease it to the buyer, and you're going to do all this stuff for them.
Yep.
We're not going over the nuances of the transaction. None of that.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool, right?
Yeah. So when I do it, I get to the end. I think I haven't even told them how it works. It's funny, like we get the buyer, but then you go into that once you finish. But there's no sense doing that unless they agree to do it.
Right. All right. So, by the way, again, like I said, there's a link in the description that has everything you need to do what we're talking about today, even if it's your first day on the job. It's got the calculator, has that does all the math for you. It has all the scripts. The calculator, you just put 2 or 3 numbers into it, and it just does all of that, right? And this is a different definition of magic. This calculator,
Mm-hmm.
it's mysterious tricks. It gives you all the numbers, right? Okay, so we're just about at the end. We got 3 or 4 minutes to go, which I'm going to always go over that. So before I end off today, I want to touch upon the deal making dojo. Okay, dojo means, actually in Japanese, a place where people practice judo, karate, and other Japanese martial arts.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Anybody who's watched Karate Kid knows.
Yeah.
Just go look at another episode to see a dojo.
Dojo, its root or origin is place of the way.
Ah,
So it's
cool.
a place of the way.
The way.
I use this language in today's description for a very specific reason. Remember? Let me go find it.
Mm-hmm.
I said in the description.
Yeah, that was interesting because you never use that word. I caught that. Look, Bill's saying dojo.
Plus, we will reveal your deal making dojo. So we're doing that right now.
Mm-hmm.
To learn and practice this craft your way or dojo, your place or dojo, because it says place of the way,
Mm-hmm.
is time spent talking to and studying sellers. Does that make sense?
It does.
Sellers, Motivated sellers are how you will build your fortune or wealth. Real estate, the actual buildings, the land, the location, the whatever, the zoning, the taxes, the payments are just what other humans get emotional about when buying and selling real estate. The location, the property, the kitchen, the bathroom, the driveway, the garage, the blah, 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 are just the emotional triggers that causes a seller or buyer to want or not want these. They're physical masses that trigger the significance, the thinking of. Right?
Mm-hmm.
In creative real estate, we do not pay attention to the property and all that kind of stuff. What we do is we pay attention to what controls the real estate, which is the paperwork, the lease options, the deeds, the land contracts, all these things that we have, subject to documents. Right?
Yep.
Creative real estate is about controlling what controls the real estate. The real estate is just a reason for, or the purpose to, write those documents. We make our money in the documents, not in the real estate. The real estate is just the emotional desire for someone to want to do a lease option with you, a buyer to do a lease option with you, and give you 20 grand down. Proof of this is that you don't need to do your due diligence and worry about all this property and stuff. Proof of this is we have multiple times, dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of times, myself and my coaching clients will sign an option agreement with a seller and then bring the house to the market and go find a buyer.
Mm-hmm.
The buyer will do the due diligence for you. They'll go find out if it's dysfunctional. They'll go find out if there's a cracked basement. They'll go find out if it's a bad location. They'll tell you whether there's a drug dealer next door. They'll tell you if there's sex crime in the neighborhood. You don't need to do any of that due diligence. The buyer will do it for you.
Mm-hmm. But they're not that fussy either, are they? Because they can't get a house otherwise.
Some are, some aren't. So the point that I'm trying to make is that when you get a buyer, you then put the deal together. Now you know what the buyer's willing to do, you know what the seller's willing to do, and you get a little bit in the middle for doing the paperwork and putting it all together. You're not committed to this deal until you get a buyer and a seller.
Right.
And there's no reason to be nervous.
Mm-hmm.
So the best thing, so why are you studying all this stuff? Why are you trying to learn about estimates and comps and real estate and paperwork and all that stuff? Why are you doing that? Because none of that makes you money. What makes you all the money, makes you wealthy and very rich, is being familiar with your seller. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
It's your two-step that becomes hours and hours of dancing if you don't understand the two-step. In other words, I'm saying that wrong. If you don't know your two-step, you're going to try to dance and try to dance and try to dance and try to dance and never know how. But if you just learn the two-step, the most important fundamental parts of dancing, then everything else will come together. It's like being at a party that everybody's having a blast and you got blindfolds on. Everyone else is having fun, but you can't see it and you don't know what's going on. The best dojo on planet Earth for you is a seller's living room, nose to nose, toe to toe. Do a handful or two handfuls of these in-house presentations. It's like getting a 6-year college degree. for two reasons. Number one, for the training and the experience, and number two, for the income that you'll make from it. Doctors and lawyers have 6-year degrees. You'll make more than they do if you actually study your seller and understand your seller and watch the movie multiple times so you know what they're going to say. So that when you're talking to them, you can easily, without any scripts, bring up the right questions to get them to address their attention on where they need to go to sell this property. Funny thing is, and then we're going to end off, as much as I say this, most don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Then they wonder why they still have a job. Or have to reinvent the wheel, take the training, and it doesn't work, so they put a twist on it. Or, I don't have a personality like Bill. He's too rude. He's too New York for me. I wouldn't talk to a customer that way. Well, you're going to miss them. Right? When you ask sellers, thousands, I lost track of 4,300 sellers, nose to nose, toe to toe. When you ask every seller the same question, and almost 100% you get the same answer. Not the same words, but the same type of answer.
Mm-hmm.
That question impinges. You should use it. That's my dojo story. With that said, we're all done. I hope you guys had a good listen today. I hope you had some ideas. I hope your thinking changed a bit. Make sure you,
A message from
So we're at the end here and have to end. We're 6 minutes overdue, 7 minutes. But Chris says, Rocky says, always great. Thank you, Rocky. I live in Ohio, and there are a lot of duplexes in my area. More are being built as well. What do you think about those? Kind of sell it to a buyer like a Fannie Mae program, if that's a question for support. Yeah, it's a question for a support ticket, but I'm going to tell you right now, I wish my area was full of duplexes because I would buy them left, right, and center. There is a mad, especially with inflation and everything the way it is, there is a mad demand right now for families sharing mortgages. And that's a perfect way to do it. Right? Two families are famous in my cities at home because you can get a family with a $3,000 or $2,800 a month mortgage, and they both could pay part of it and live in their own spaces and be together with family.
Mm-hmm.
So duplexes you still can sell them exactly what we're talking about. If you want to use Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae for mortgages, that's totally fine. But you could still do all the lease options and everything we talked about. All right, cool. Yes, I would buy them the same way I buy singles.
Mm-hmm.
I would do everything the same way.
Yeah, there's people that want to buy that, live in it, and the other person helps pay the mortgage. So he moves on at some point and buys another one.
I'd like to buy a duplex in Florida to do just that. I want to use it as a snowbird property.
Mm-hmm.
So if my wife and I can use one side, and we get the other person to pay rent on the other side, and probably pay the mortgage.
Hey, Bill, I'll buy the other side.
There you go. All right, so we're going to boogie because we're 9 minutes past. Thank you very much for all your support. Thank you for the questions. Chris says, great. Thanks, Bill and Pete. Great podcast. You're very welcome. Glad
Thanks,
you
Chris.
enjoyed it. And make sure you like us. Make sure you subscribe to us. Make sure you leave a comment about us. And if you need any help, you can go to flippinghousesforrookies.com. There is a link up at the top right-hand corner, and you can use that. So podcast number 403 officially over. We will see and hear you on podcast number 404, which is a week for us from now. Have a good week. Flourish and prosper. Thank you.